Yay.
We are, well, it says record only. I don't think we're live, but I pressed
It
record.
says live on my side.
It says live. So, of course, if comments pop up, then we'll see. But
Where
good
would we be live at?
it shouldn't be live, but maybe it just says that. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
This is we. I changed the name from Goddess Awakened. There's another show that kind of has that name, so I wanted to switch it. So this is now, of course, a Thick Goddess Energy Morning Show. Who knows if it will stay or if it will change? Who knows? But for now, that's it. So this is a pre-recorded version. I know you guys are used to us being live in the morning.
Right.
I am Divine Moon Goddess, if you don't know who I am, and my co-host, Oracle
Or
Empress, are you there?
it's so weird, like just you and I. Like
It's like I don't know why it's different. We've been doing this shit for like a month.
right.
Don't ask us. It's different when we're doing it live, and now we're just kind of like, okay, this is the plan, this is the show, this is the kind of setup, and it's kind of like show. Okay, so we're gonna stay on topic. The good thing is though, is that we will be able to stay on topic because we don't have the comments that's
Right.
that's kind of going like on and on and on. So today, this morning, because we of course we're pre-recording, so tonight or this morning, should I say, for you guys, we are talking about how to live a life without attachment. And so, we go through life with so many attachments, whether it be your home, your car, your kids, your spouse, parents, whatever it is, right? We have all of these attached things that we're attached to. And when it comes time to let go of things, whoo, it's like death,
Right.
right? It's just like, and it's crazy because I actually did a video not too long ago. Of course, if you guys are following my social media, you saw a box that I had, a box that had nothing in it. And it just really took everything for me to throw that box away. And that box had, and actually, I had that box
I
had,
did see that.
this is the Buddha that was in the box over 10 years ago that I bought this Buddha, right? So this is the Buddha that came in the box. I still have the Buddha, right? And then the box became a place for me to keep my dad's ashes. And then finally got my dad a beautiful urn. And then I couldn't let go of the box. Nothing's in the fucking box. The box has been empty. But I couldn't let go of the box. And it was just like, and we get so afraid of letting things go because we fear that loss. Like if it's like, and when it comes to a past loved one, I get it, but they're gone,
Mhm.
right? They're gone. This shit ain't gonna bring them back, holding on to a bunch of shit. So, how do we, the biggest question, right? How do we live without the attachments? How do we chip them away? How do we let go?
How do you have a fluid life where you just flow? It's just a flow.
Right.
Attachments can be things that aren't physical too. You can be attached to feelings, you can be attached to expectations, um,
Right.
many, many different things that cause us to have that barrier and not be able to just flow with what's going on for the day, flow
Right.
what's going on in your life.
Right. I had a conversation with someone the other night where she just was really down, very down about a whole bunch of things, kids being disrespectful, people, just you just name it. What came down in the conversation though was the expectation behind it. The
Mhm.
expectation that they should respect her, the expectation, it all went pointed to that expectation. That's the attachment, right? The attachment of, well, I do this, I'm caring, I'm loving, I'm always there for my family. I expect that they should do this.
Right,
No, right? Got to
right,
remove that shit. Because everything we do, we're supposed to just do it without the expectation of what people will do, right? Now, of course, if people don't live up to that and they don't ever reciprocate, or if they're not, gracious or that show that gratitude, then we have to then take stock of that and kind of move forward, right? Or kind of change the way we vibe with people, I think.
right.
but just to kind of sit there and just, you will constantly go into a sense of depression with expectation.
Oh yeah.
I used to have that a lot. Used to expect everyone would be me. Everyone would do as I do. Everyone would give the way I give.
And even expectations on yourself.
Yes.
But those are boundaries that you're putting on yourself, that you can only be this good or you can only be that bad. And that doesn't allow for you to grow. If
Yep.
you're constantly at your best, when are you going to do better? When are
Right.
you really going to live to your full potential if you're saying this is as good as it gets right here?
Right.
And then even to have those expectations on yourself about not being able to do something,
Right.
that stops you from wanting to take the chance to do anything. And then that fills your life with the fear of disappointment.
Right. Right. Like the fear of failure, any type of
Mm-hmm.
fear, right? Not even failure, whatever the fear is, that's still an attachment to
Loneliness,
that energy.
disappointment,
Hmm.
regret,
Yep.
all of it.
You can be literally attached to so many different things, but we don't see it that way because it has all of these terms and slogans of all of this different stuff, and we don't ever pick apart. The biggest thing we always talk about is awareness, right? Awareness of self, awareness of our behavior, awareness of our emotions. Take that
Mm-hmm.
awareness and step back and say, okay, where am I right now?
Right
And
now.
if you start to pick apart what is bothering you, right?
Right.
Because one of the biggest things I do in every session is why, the whys. We were taught the whys. Nicole, is one of the ones who really got me to see those whys for why and break it down, right? Because why are you mad? Why are you really mad? Not because, okay, this person did something to me or this situation or my money, this or this and that. Go to the whys and get down, and you will start to see you're attached to these other energies that we just got to learn how to let go. So now, whether it is emotional, whether it's physical, whether it is spiritual attachments in spirit, we know there's spiritual attachments also, right? We know that there is attachments. So regardless to how it is, how do you start to get to that space of change? We talk about declutter. We talk about
Mhm.
um, we talk about removing people, right? We talk
Right.
about relocation, positive affirmations. I think no matter how you look at the non, to live a life with no attachment is to start to take stock of the things in your life, good or bad, happy or sad. Start to take stock. This year I've spent most of this year going through my home, decluttering my home, really looking at things on a physical space, on a physical sense to do some clearing. And then at the end of last year, at the beginning of this year, I had actually took stock of some of my own behaviors, some of my own shit that was, working against me, should I say, in my own energy or my own attitude, in the way that I was like, maybe I could change some things. Like maybe I could let some shit go. Maybe I didn't have to get mad at certain situations and people. So the
You
hardest,
know,
go
huh?
ahead.
No, go ahead.
I think I think the hardest part of it all is just letting go.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's easier to let go of physical things than it is to let go of the things that you're not noticing because they're not physical, right? So they come up and you're like, letting go of people. Okay, you can let go of that person, but how did that person make you feel? And what void did that person fill for you?
Right, right,
And then, when you do let go, you have that guilt. And it's not a physical thing that you can pick up and get rid of. It's not a
right,
physical. So it's like, how do you, how does your higher self
right,
allow for that to move away and
right,
still be okay, and still
right,
process everything? Because it's so easy. It's like, okay, I'm not saying it's easy, but I'm going to give up cigarettes, or I'm going to give up this person, or I'm going to give up the like, I'm not going to do this, or I'm not going to do that. And it's like, okay, I can let go, But then
Right.
once you do, how do you fill that void?
You got to break down. I feel like you got to break it down. Like, let's say it's a person. Let's use a relationship for an example,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let's say we break up with the person, but now we're left with the sadness and the hurt and the pain. Well, one of the things is you got to allow yourself to grieve that shit, right? You have to allow yourself to grieve, especially when you know you care about somebody. And the other part about it is you got to really become aware, is it really love or is it ego?
Right.
You know, are you holding on to it because you really feel hurt that they did this, that, and the third? Or is it more that now people are going to say this about you? Is it more your ego and your
Yeah.
pride on the situation? So I think people have to become aware of what's going on to work through it. Because if you never become aware, then you're never going to work through it.
Right. And that's the thing, like I learned just by like smoking cigarettes and um quitting, and people seem to gain weight when they quit smoking.
Right.
And I didn't get it, but it's basically that, you have to fill a void. So you get
Right.
rid of something, but you have to fill it with something. So then not a normal person, but generally people go to whatever they can use with their hands and their mouth, right?
Right.
To get that same sensation. So it's like,
Right.
you want to live fluidly and you want to let go of these things. And then we forget about that there's this space that
Hmm.
needs to be filled with something. Now, generally, we would love it to be self love, right? That would be like the most best thing that you could do is like fill it with some self love. But
Right.
if people don't notice that they have to fill that void with something, I think that's
Right.
when those unhealthy
Right.
habits come in that we don't notice.
Right. Well, what if you didn't have to fill it with anything? What if you could just go? And this is where I was talking about going to the core issue. What if we go to the core issue of what's going on? Because the reason why you're smoking is because of something, right? If you don't attack the reasons why you picked up this cigarette and started smoking, when you quit smoking, you will go to some other habit
Mhm.
because there is nothing, there's nothing, like you said, there's that void you need to fill because you feel an
Mhm.
empty space. So I know, like, even with myself with drinking, I used to smoke weed at one time and I was like a weed head when I was in my in my 20s and abused. I was a functioning alcoholic, but I was still an
Right.
alcoholic, you know. And one of the things I noticed is after that I went to food. That's what was the next step.
Mhm. That's
Food.
the next best thing.
Then I was an emotional eater. And then when you actually, it took me years to really start to say, I can't do this no more. Like I have to
Yeah.
figure out what is inside me. Why do I keep using food as this comfort? Why am I going to this place of depression and
Right.
sadness? But if you never stop and ask yourselves those questions, like you'll never see it. You'll just go to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. And especially with addiction, I feel firmly that it stems from core issues. And you have to
Yeah.
go inside and say, what brought me to this place of needing to fill this void? What brought me to this place of feeling like something is gone or empty or I'm
Right.
missing something? It'll always stem to your self-worth, your fucking abandonment issues, your fucking fears, and all of this other shit.
Yeah. Because I've never been an alcoholic. I very rarely drink and kind of have sort of always been that way. When I was younger, I would drink when I would go out, and things like that. But I've never been one to like have a bottle at home or,
Right.
be at a Christmas party and have some, like, I have to be, for some reason, it's weird. I have to be at a bar. Like, there has to be a professional person making my drink because I hate the taste of alcohol. And so
Mm,
I'll just tell them, make me something I can't taste the alcohol
right,
kind of
right,
thing.
right,
And I'm not a big weed smoker. However, I do like to smoke weed once in a while.
right,
But I found either when I've split up in a relationship or like when I moved down here and I kind of left my relationship back home and we had that distance and I had to go to sleep at night, right? And it was new to me to sleep by myself.
yeah,
So in order for me, not that I ever had the sleep issue of it, But in order for me to not constantly like wake up at night wondering where's my partner? Or,
Right.
that weird feeling of being alone,
Yeah.
that's what I noticed. I would pick up that weed. Or I would have a drink of wine or something, a couple of
Right.
glasses of wine, so I would be able to like plonk out and then because I
Right.
would wake up. I'm so used to that body being there that I would wake up like, oh, okay, wait, no, I am by myself. So of
Right.
course, once that is gone, then I started to fill my void, even though I don't feel like it became an addiction because it, happened randomly, but it's still the void that the easiest thing to go to was like, man, I don't want to go to sleep alone tonight. And then it was like, okay, well, I'll just have a couple glasses of wine and then I'll
Right.
like,
Right.
and then too, in my mind, I thought it's better than sleeping pills, right? The weed is
Mm-hmm.
better than sleeping pills. The weed became better than alcohol. The weed is better than, having some other addiction, but it's like filling that. So if you don't figure out where it's coming from, you're just going to find a solution to help you ease that,
Right.
whatever it
Right.
is.
Right. Because the thing about it is, most of the time we are picking up unhealthy habits to fill those voids, right?
Mhm.
We're not going like, oh shit, I'm so depressed. Let me read 10 books in a row. You know, oh shit, I'm so depressed. Let me go fucking run 5 miles. Nobody's fucking doing that. So when you know that you're not doing a healthy habit, right? That's when you know you got a problem. That's
Right.
when you know, wait a minute, I need to figure this the fuck out. This is not healthy. This is
And I
not
think it's funny you said food because I don't know what I was doing. Was I on maybe Facebook or something? But somebody had this sticky note in their refrigerator. So when you opened it, it said, "You're not hungry, you're bored." And I'm like, see, and that's the other thing too. So then you don't have anything to do. So say you cut out going to the bar. Say you cut out going with
right.
friends. Say you cut out, whatever physical activity you used to do. And so now you're hanging out at home and you're watching Netflix and you got a good book and then you're eating and eating. And I thought that was so funny when I seen that. I'm like, I need that in my refrigerator. Not just for me, for my kids, for anything.
Right.
Like, stop filling that void of being bored with coming down here and going through the refrigerator. Like, stop.
It is mostly it's boredom. And one of the things where when we're talking, especially like on a client basis, it's like, well, what do you do? What's your hobbies? And it's like most of the time it's like, fuck, I have no hobbies. I don't know who I am. And
Hmm.
so instead of us saying, well, damn, let me figure out who the fuck am I, we just got to be busy. Because I used to do this. I used to keep busy, constantly busy doing shit, keep my mind, so I wouldn't have to deal with shit. But when do you ever stop and get to know yourself? Because if you start to get to know yourself, you can chip away at a lot of this shit. You can
Yeah.
get deep into that soul area. You can kind of conquer some stuff. But the fear of going there is like crazy how we're so afraid to go there. We'll just keep
Hmm.
doing whatever the fuck we're doing, unhealthy habits. Or you've seen people who will get boyfriend or girlfriend after girlfriend, and it's like, damn, it's the 10th one this year. Are you good?
Hmm.
Are you good, boo? It's crazy. But you at some point you have to say there's a problem. So to live a life with no attachment is allowing yourself to let people, energy, places, whatever it is, go completely and wholeheartedly. Not to say that you don't give yourself a chance to grieve. Let's say you've been at a job 20 years and they fire you and you piss the fuck off. Okay, be angry,
Right.
but let it go. You're going to sit in that fucking energy forever, hating the fucking job. And that's too like sitting with that anger and hate towards someone in a situation that maybe did you wrong. And then year goes by and year goes by, 20 years go by, you still fucking pissed off at this person? What kind of energy is that holding on to you, and where and how is that affecting you on a
Hmm.
physical level?
What do you think is one attachment you would find other than your caramel macchiato that you found or find like would be really hard for you to give up?
I'm gonna use this example because this is something that I've worked really hard to work through, and I'll use the twin flame dynamic. Okay, the twin flame dynamic. So, in a big part of my twin flame dynamic, for some reason it was like I had to prove that it was real, not necessarily to others, but to myself. For some reason,
Okay.
it was like the attachment to prove that I'm not crazy. I have to prove, because if this isn't my twin, then what the fuck else is going on? Am I batshit crazy? You know what I mean? So it was the attachment to needing to prove and seek these answers, which of course, yes, I've gotten a lot of answers and it's helped me. But that attachment, and the other part of that was, if I surrender and I let go of this twin, the fear of missing out on this cosmic fucking connection was huge. And I had to let that go, like really be like, whether we're together or not, whether we find each other again, regardless, to just truly release, which has been the hardest thing for me to do in this dynamic of, because that fear, that attachment to that fear, what happens, you know, what happens if I let go?
Do you think sometimes, like this twin flame, right? I feel like that's a big one for a lot of people. That's going to hit a lot of people. Like, yeah, that's a hard thing. So I don't know how else to say it, but to say it. So if I offend anybody, I completely like, that's not what I meant by it. I just, have to like say it how it is. So this twin flame gets this big dynamic of, we've been together for 10, 15, 20 years. We've gone through hell. We've made it through hell. We've made it back. We're still together. We're still fighting. And it's like you're finding a way to glorify all the shit, right? So
Right,
then everyone wants this relationship. Oh, I want to go through a relationship where we've been through hell and back and we're just so strong and blah, 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 blah. And, because in your 20s, you got it. You can kind of take things a little differently than you
right,
can in the 30s. And then
right.
40s, is like, fuck no. Like,
Hell no.
I'm not doing this shit no more. I
40s, we're
can't.
done.
20s, you're like, oh, you get pissed off and you get in your car and you're driving around looking for them, or you're going through people's phone bills, or things like that.
Right, right, right.
Like, but just it gets this big thing where like we've been together for 20 years and nobody can break us, and I
Right,
came out on top kind of thing, and it's
right.
like all of a sudden everybody wants that, and it's like,
No,
you
no.
like, do you feel like, so for being physically attached, do you think some people feel like their relationship is less than because they didn't have all this hard shit that they fought
Yes,
through and that they went through?
yes. I think a lot of people have glorified the trauma of a relationship in that way. I remember way before my twin flame dynamic, I remember working at this one clinic, and this older lady worked there, and she would always talk about her husband, and they've been together like, fucking 30 years or whatever. She was an older lady. And she would talk about all the shit that they went through. And I mean, they went through some crazy shit, right?
Right.
I would not, I mean, me and my baby daddy went through some stuff. After my baby daddy, I said, not again. I will never let a man put me through the shit that I went through with him. No. And I
Mm-hmm.
stuck to that, right? So she was, and I was just like, my facial expression was like, do you want a cookie? Because you've been with this man 30 years. And like, no, no disrespect. But I don't think that that's cute for you to be with someone 30 years and drag your ass through the mud and beat your ass, cheated on you, stole your shit, fucked up your shit. You fucked up his shit. I don't think that shit is cute at all. I used to look at my mom and I would say, I love my dad, but why the fuck did you stay with him? If this man was beating the shit out of you and it's
Mm-hmm.
all bad, why the fuck are you still here? And it's like, well, I didn't want my kids from different men. So you thought just to stay with this man? Who are you proving it to? And the fact, if you see these women who have been, and now we're not talking about a loving, peaceful
Mm-hmm.
relationship that's been together 30 years. We're talking about we trauma shit, right?
The hard shit. Right.
The women who do that have justified it, and they're like, that's the attitude. Well, I won. I won.
Mm-hmm.
I got him. And it's like, well, what did you win? Did you get a medal? Do you got a purple heart for this shit? Because I don't think there is one, you know? And
That's yeah.
and
I
so
think a lot
now
of times that's
with
what
the
it
twin
is.
flame, because back in the day there was no twin flame shit. Nobody was saying the term twin flame. So now people are taking the twin flame dynamic
It
to
was always soulmate and then it became toxic, right? And then now it's twin flame. But I don't think either. I think they're all different in their own
yeah.
way. But
We on the talk show that I just was on, the podcast on Carl's podcast, we were talking about twin flames, and so the subject came up, and one of the questions we're asking me, like, the definition between all the different flames, all the different
mhm,
levels. And one, I do feel people have gotten ridiculous with the labels. I do know
yeah,
when we were a kid, we were even sold this dream of one soulmate that we were going to find and live happily fucking ever after, right? Like the fairy tales. But I think that people have gone crazy. And I do feel like people have taken that attachment to that name and to glorify the tragedy of it, right? Now, I always say this, most people who I feel like are true twin flames are not glorifying it. You actually want to run from this shit. You actually want to gouge your fucking eyes out at times. You're not trying to
mhm,
run around like, yay, twin flame, especially not in the first couple years.
right.
You're not running around with this shit. So I do think people get these attachment to labels. And we've talked about this on a couple shows where it's like this attachment to the label. I have to be labeled. You remember this even in the spiritual community when we were coming
Yeah,
in. It was
yeah.
like, oh, if you
Or
didn't have spirit guides, you weren't as gifted as everybody else. And it was
it's
just like,
like, and remember, I even told you that one time where I had gotten to the point where I kept hearing like you're going to be blocked if you don't do this or if you don't
right,
believe in that, you're going to be blocked.
right,
And then I started to question myself on like if
yeah,
I'm blocked, how do I get any further, right?
right,
But I think everybody is like that. Like you said, like everyone has to have this label
right,
because then it helps define them because it gives them a physical thing that
right.
they can attach themselves to.
Right. When in actuality, we're supposed to be reversing that and detaching in spirituality, right? Because
Mhm.
that's why you go to spirituality. You go to spirituality to detach from society's norm, right? We don't go to spirituality so we can start creating more fucking religions. Like,
Mhm.
like you go to spirituality because you're trying to break away from all of the labels and shit that people have on you. And unfortunately, that's a big thing because that was huge within my
Huge.
first year in the spiritual community. And it was like, oh, because I don't hear them like this, I'm not as gifted. Like, what the fuck? Get
Mhm.
out of here. Like, okay. We and we've talked about that before, but that's the attachment, the label. That's all ego. It all goes back to ego. Your ego is what needs to prove anything. Your ego needs the attachment. Your ego needs that to feel better about itself because that's the persona here in this plane. But if you look at your higher self is never going to attach to any of this shit because it understands it's
Mhm.
no need.
And I think that's too like I know you were there with me when we went through that with Nicole, and
Mhm.
I am unable to unattach myself to my grief
Right. Right.
from losing my son
It's hard.
because that's like that takes away
Right.
the last connection, I guess you could say.
Right. To you, it does. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
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 The last connection that I had, that was his last moments on this physical earth. Whether it was
Right.
good or bad,
Right.
those were his last moments on this physical earth, and those were the last physical moments that I had with this person. And so for me to feel like I'm disattaching myself from that grief
Right.
somehow hits me in a way where I feel like it's disattaching myself from the person.
Right.
And so that's something, too, that I feel like is a big one is I feel like sometimes people don't want to disattach themselves from the grief,
Yeah.
no matter how much it tears them apart.
Yeah.
People can't fathom what do you do after that person or after, ooh, sorry, or feeling like, now am I going to forget that person? Because then, like, we're talking about living fluidly. So if I
Right.
just wake up every day and I just live fluidly,
Right.
like it didn't happen, not saying like it didn't happen, but I don't dwell my day on what happened.
Right, right, right,
And I just try to live fluidly and, like go with the flow. And if I get a sign, I get a sign. If I don't, I don't, kind of thing. Or just, be able to walk past his picture. Does that, even when we're talking about what it makes, what we look like to the public, like people want to be in this twin flame thing.
right,
Does
right, right,
that even look, like to the public? Like, what
right,
if they're like, does she even pays, like that? She's fine without him, and but you know what I mean? It's just like,
right, right,
you're magnifying all of these feelings and emotions, whether they're yours, the public's. What do they think? Who's gonna
right,
think? What do I think?
right,
Where does it, So it's a big thing. I think that would be my biggest thing,
right.
is to disattach myself from the
Nice.
grief. Even though it doesn't feel good, if I
Mm-mm.
didn't have that feeling, what would I be left with?
I feel like sometimes it's a little bit of the guilt to live.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how could I be happy? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
How can I be truly happy? Even though that's what we should be doing, right? Because life and
Mm-hmm.
death, it's a part of it. And we're supposed to get to this realization of that. But I know what you're talking about, the judgment, because I talk about 15 losing my first daughter, and I got so judged for all of, I went through a very dark time. I did a lot of stupid shit after that. Like I was drinking and driving. I was doing a bunch of crazy shit. I was sleeping with people. I was out there. I didn't care. I was okay if I died. You know what I mean? Like I was in a negative space where I didn't give two shits. But it's
Mm-hmm.
crazy that what you would get were so many people didn't have compassion. They just judged me for my actions. Not like, damn, this girl's hurting. Maybe somebody should reach out to
Mm-hmm.
her. It was just like, you're a hoe, you're this, you're a gang member, you're this or whatever the fuck people had to say. And it's trippy that that's what you will get. You'll get the judgment, you'll get the shit, but it's like, where's the compassion? Where's the damn? She's going through some things. Where let's reach out and try to help. And I don't know if it's just because of where I came from, or that's just the shitty part about coming from like the hood or a lower income area, where you just didn't talk about things, you just didn't process things, you just didn't get grief counseling when shit happened, right?
It's like you kind of like, after things happen like that, right? You get a couple good weeks, or you get a couple of good months.
Right,
And people expect you to do stupid shit, right? They're like, oh, she's drinking, or she's,
right,
taking Valiums, or she's
right,
on depression pills, or the bitch is out at the bar, blah, blah. Well, I shouldn't say the word. But whatever, they're like, you get those few weeks, few months to do crazy shit. And then 6 months goes by and it's no longer a part of your grief. Now it's, you're a hoe, or you're
right,
a drunkie, or
right,
you're a druggie, or you're trifling, or you
right,
just ain't shit. So in that aspect, it's like, you in the hood, it's like you get a little bit, they'll give you a little bit, and then after that you become their gossip. And that's what I was going to say too, is another thing is I, like we was talking about, the food thing.
right,
If you notice, a lot of your attachments are through your hands and mouth, right?
right,
And
right,
so I think that's where a lot of gossip comes in, with people who
yeah,
like to go out and do that because it's their mouth.
they're
So then,
running.
no longer are you the grieving person.
Right,
Now you're
right,
the bitch that's at the bar all the time, or the bitch who can't take care of her kids, and nobody's looking at what happened.
right,
Because for
right,
them, it's done and over with. They went to the funeral, it's gone, it's over with. It's
right,
like their life has moved on.
right,
But where your life may not have moved on.
right. And it's crazy because people get all these stories. Even when I got older, I would people would tell me these stories, like they heard like my like if my daughter was suffocated and all this other crazy shit, and it's just like, damn, that's not even what happened. Like, but that's the stories
Mhm.
that are out there. And I would do good, like you said, I would have these good moments, and I would get to fixing my life, and then I would crash. I would crash, and I would hit hard, and that depression would come in, woo, and it would fucking hit me. And then I was just the most horrible person. I was this, I was destructive, I was this, and I was destructive to myself. Was way destructive to myself.
Mhm.
But you just never get help and you never know how to. And no one, it's like no one extends like the lifeline.
Right.
Like, damn, this girl's acting out. They just feel like you should be better, right? You
You
should
should
just be
know
better.
better, right?
You should just be better. And it's like there's no fucking window on grief.
Like you
One
get
day
a few days
you're
to cry
doing
and
good.
then you got to get up, right? You know?
You'll hear people tell you like, "Oh, well, you got more," or "Oh, you can have another one." And it's like, "Bitch, are you fucking stupid?" Like,
Mm-hmm.
not to say it like that, but like I've heard so many different things and it's like, "Are you kidding me?" Like that's what you think to say to someone?
That's right.
It doesn't matter how many kids a person has, you can't replace that soul. You can't replace, you just can't. So I think some people are just clueless in this life sometimes. And so when we go back to the attachments, you guys, we do get attached because I was attached to my grief for 20 something years, and I still have a part of that grief that I have not let go fully. Not yet. There's a fear.
Mm-hmm.
There's a fear. There's some part of me that still hasn't let go completely in my path. And maybe one day I'll get there. Maybe one day it'll be like, boom, I'll get there. But you do get attached to shit. And
Yeah.
you just got to find it. You got to look for it. You got to become aware of it. So once you become aware of it, then you're like, okay, now I can create a plan. Doesn't mean you got to execute it right now.
Yeah. I think like living a fluid life or a free flowing life is also having to trust in a divine power. Now, whether you believe in God or whoever you believe in, you have
Mhm.
to trust in some kind of divine power. Because there's people who don't believe in anything like that.
Right,
And they can still be spiritual. So let's make that right now. You can still be a
right,
spiritual tarot reading, meditation, blah blah blah, and not believe in any kind of creation power. You believe strictly in science. That is, you can do that.
right,
But if you try to live a fluid life and you try to live a free flowing life, you would have to put your trust somewhere, right? Somewhere.
right.
And I think that's the hardest thing for people to do, no matter how much they can preach about God or whoever it is or the creator. It's very hard for people to actually put a physical trust of being okay in the hands of somebody they cannot physically see.
Yes.
Because you would have to be like, okay, universe is going to take care of me. Like
Right,
I'm down to my last $5 on my account and I got to get to work and I got to feed these
right,
kids tonight, but you would have to be like, it's
right.
okay. Like we're going to be okay. And that's a hard thing to do,
It
to try
is.
something that you can't call, you can't see, you can't go
Mm-mm.
stop at their door and ask them to borrow $20. Like it's
Right,
like,
right. And I always say with that, and like it really doesn't matter if you believe in whatever the term is, but most of the time, what I say to people is even if you think of your most darkest moments, the hardest times of your life, were you not okay? Did something not pan out for you at the end of the day? Even if you ate once that day, you ate, right? You know what
mhm,
I mean? Because some people think like, oh my God, starving is, only eating 2 meals a day. No, it's not fucking starving. Poor, some people think poor is eat out at McDonald's every day. No, that's not fucking being poor.
right.
Poor people don't fucking eat out every day. Okay. So I think sometimes we get caught in that aspect of it. Attachment also, I feel like comes from the attachment to suffering. We get attached to the
Mhm.
suffering of the world. You could sit here all day long and watch the news and social media and just be so fucking pissed off and mad all day, every
Yeah.
day. And constantly have this unfortunate suffering. And I am a firm believer that we are co-creators and we help create our reality. And so if you want to live this life with no attachments, if you want to be fluid with the universe and just allow the universe to amaze you, you will have to just go with the flow. You will have to stop fighting. So
Right.
if spirit's like, let's move left, and you're like, no, but right feels
No, I'm
so
going
good.
right. Mm-hmm.
I've been over here in the right side for 20 years. What do you mean we got to go left now? And spirit's like, well,
Mm-hmm.
trust us. Let's go. We're trying to get over here. You have to take that moment to say, okay, let me let go and
Mm-hmm.
let's go. The reason why I believe the way that I do is because spirit has shown me one too many times that I will be okay, to trust. But
Yeah.
there are some things though I'm still holding on to. I'm not going to say I'm all 100% attachment free, because I'd be lying, right? I'd be fucking lying.
Right.
But for the most part, I have detached from a lot of things. And I think awareness, just really coming to your awareness, you guys, find out why. Why are you doing the things that you do? Why do you feel the way? I hear it all the time. Why? Why? Why do I feel this? Why I can't stop doing this? Who the fuck is going to tell you the whys? You know the whys.
Mm-hmm.
It's because you don't want to admit the whys. Why do I keep going back to this person? Because somewhere you fucking like the drama. I remember telling my brother that one time. It's not that every woman is crazy. It's not that you love crazy women. Well, to an extent, it's that
Mm-hmm.
you like this. Some part of you likes this. You would not keep calling the same person in. They would not be mirroring the very person that you tried to get away from. They wouldn't,
Right.
you know?
Which makes sense because I had that conversation with somebody before on um like, well, if I didn't chase her down, right? Like, so I would have a friend who would if they got into a fight, she would, try to take her break. She'd disappear. She probably wouldn't tell him where she was at or whatever, but I was talking, he was just be like, that was his form of love. And it took him a while to see that because he was like, well, if I didn't chase her down, or if she didn't act, like, what really bothers me is when she's really cool and chill and she's just like, we're going to break up. She'll pack my things. It's like he gets angry without having that big blow up moment. And because to him, that was that form of, I love you. I don't want to let you go.
Right, right, right.
And so when they didn't get that, or if he was like, well, if I would just let her leave and I didn't go look for her, then that would mean I didn't love her. And I'm like, so I think it's too, like, some of the things that we've seen when we were younger that
Right.
makes us feel like that's,
Love.
like,
That's
that's
love.
love. So like you said, like, it's not that he's like, where are all these crazy toxic women coming from? These fucking noodle heads. And it's like, no,
Right.
it's not just them. In a way, it's you too, because
Yep.
somehow, some way, it kind of rings one of those bells where it's like, oh, maybe she does like me. You know what I mean? Like,
It is. You have to say, what is the common denominator? And
of
it and it's
everything.
and it's a harsh reality, right? It's a harsh thing that comes in when you really have to sit and say, what's the
Yeah.
common denominator in this factor of all these shitty people that have come into my life?
When you
I'm the
wait.
common denominator, me, right? And that's one of the
And
things I
like
had
when
to
you
figure
get those
out.
women who are like, well, he never fought for me. And it's
Hmm.
like, well, what did you want him to What
I,
did you
I
want him to
I have been one of
like?
those women.
What?
I have been one of those women. It's just like I remember I was dating this guy and I dated him for like fucking 3 years. And it wasn't going nowhere. In the moment or the time or whatever was going on, it was not going nowhere. And I just remember I made a choice to leave the state. And I remember telling him, like, hey, I'm moving. And he's like, where? And I'm like, I'm moving to Charlotte, North Carolina. And he's like, damn, like, just like that, you're moving. Me, I was in my 20s. I wanted him to be like, no, don't go,
Please
don't,
stop.
you know? And he was just like, damn. And I was like, oh, that's the reaction I get? That's it after all this time? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, what? Well, fuck you then. Because that was my attitude. And when I look back at a lot of people that I either dated with or whatever, I wasn't open. I was never truly open for love. I was never truly open to have a relationship, but I
To
wanted them to
receive
fucking chase.
love.
Exactly. I wanted them to chase me in that way, but I didn't really want them in that way. And so that's why I never really had someone come to me who was open and ready for love because I wasn't. I was playing a bunch of fucking games, but in my mind, I'm like, there's no good men. They're all fucked up.
Yep.
They're all liars. They're all this bullshit, you know? And oh, no wonder why everyone that's coming to you is closed off, unemotional, can't
Can't, right.
can't
Right.
fucking feel their emotions. It's like, hello, what's the common denominator in this situation? You have to become aware of you. You are the common factor in this. And this is where awareness comes in. So if you want to get to a space where you're free flowing in life, you're glowing, you're vibing, you're living life to the fullest, whatever that means for you, your hobbies, your friends, your family, whatever, you got to start detaching even from the emotions, the abuse that happened, the
Mm-hmm.
attached to the fucking story of the past. I was the person who got molested, or I was the person who got abused, or I was the person who was homeless. You're attached to the fucking story. Gotta let that shit go. You can't be the victim forever. And I
Mm-hmm.
never thought I was in victim mode, but in 2019, I was shown that I was still in victim mode. In my late 30s, I was still a fucking victim to my circumstance, to everything that happened to me. I was still sitting as a fucking victim. And that shit blew my mind to realize that I was just sitting here like, poor me. Look at my life. If only you guys knew how hard it was for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
On some part of it, when I do my healing circles, it's a little bit different because I allow all of us to just feel what we're feeling in that moment. But the trick is to get out of that and move forward because you can't stay in that energy. You can't be
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
story. That's an attachment. It's another attachment. It's why you can't move forward. It's why you can't grow. It's why get to the next space. So, my closing remarks on living with no attachments, I would say for me, it's been profound this past year of 2021 of really letting go of some labels and some things and even letting go the twin flame dynamic of surrendering to what will be, and not letting it drive me crazy or not letting it, um, keep me nuts, basically keep me nuts about it or worrying about it in that sense, removing those attachments.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my attachment with guilt, my attachment with guilt, with food, with anything, just guilty after doing something, feeling the guilt. That shit is gone. I'm no longer guilty. I'm going to live fully and enjoy this fucking life in these moments and not feel guilty for that shit.
Yeah.
You know?
I think too, I think it's a big thing to understand that your attachment